Shalom, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your tribal sister, ShaYah. I'm joined with a very special guest and a good friend, a brother that's in the truth. Please help me welcome Tariq. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, okay, I'm an Israelite, of course, by way of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Grew up in Nigeria for about 15 years. Moved to Canada. To give you a little background on my family story and how I got to know the Most High and realize who our people are. I grew up under a Muslim father and a Catholic mother, and they split when I was pretty young, but I always remember like thinking like, why I gotta pick a side, or why would it be fair that if Islam was truly the way, then people born in Saudi Arabia or really Muslim countries like Pakistan would be set at an unfair advantage because they'd be exposed more to the word of the Muslim God than people born in a Catholic country like Italy, for instance. So I
Yeah.
always pondered these things, and I thought it was like an unfair, like religious lottery in a sense, just based off of where you were born. So until I moved to Canada, when I came by myself, I didn't really have the privilege of being an independent thinker without having my parents hovering over me and influencing my thoughts. So it got to a point where I believed in a supreme being, a creator, if you will, but I just wasn't clear on the rest. I was like, this JC stuff, I'm not really sure, man. I kind of identified as Christian because that was just, for lack of a better option in a sense. But specifically in the year 2017, I was purchasing a new vehicle at the time, and I happened to go to a car dealership where this evangelist Christian, like I'm talking like Jehovah's Witness or your Christmas type, like brother was going in. He had like the mini notes of the Bible verses on it. I'm just trying to buy a car. I'm like, I don't even know where all this is coming from, but it was flattering to me because regardless of whether people are misguided sometimes, you can kind of detect their sincerest intentions in that they wish on you what they wish on themselves. So even though he believes JC is the way and he's clearly not, because he had that kind of conviction to tell me that this is God, this, you got to make sure you're right with JC and this and that.
Yeah.
Even though that's wrong because it's untrue, it just shows you that he still wishes me the best, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Like, oh yeah, I was saying like, yeah, out of ignorancy. Yeah, like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Totally. Purely out of ignorance. They wish you well, but if only they knew better. So
Right.
yeah, so he was hitting me with all that stuff, and it was nothing new because I'd heard it in the past. But then the one thing that he said that really, was a red flag at the time was he was like, yeah, planets aren't real and the earth is flat. And I'm like, whoa. And I was there with like my family at the time. I
Yeah.
just looked over and winked at him and like, yeah, it's time to get out of here. This guy's crazy. And I was like, he's totally off his rocker. But I don't want to push it. And he was a nice guy. I mean, is a nice guy. I'll tell you how we reconnected later on. So I didn't think much of it. Whatever. As far as like conspiracies go, I think up to that point, the only thing that I knew was kind of ridiculous was 9/11. I was like, man, there's obviously something behind that. There's no way I'm buying that official story. But other than that, I didn't really look into so-called conspiracy theories because the people that believe in them get outcasted, and there's that social stigma of coming out with the truth. As we're both very familiar with by now, I should say.
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't revisit that topic, didn't even think much of it at all until about a year later. So this happened in 2016, and a year later in late 2017. Um, I'm a huge basketball fan. So I was watching this like Sports Center broadcast, and it talks about how Kyrie Irving came out to say the Earth's flat. I'm like, what? Because Kyrie is probably one of the best players in the league, and you can tell just by the way he plays and moves. That like he's an intelligent guy. So I actually listened to the interview where he talked about the Earth being flat, and he didn't come across as crazy. He came across more as like, I have information that you guys aren't aware of. But he was kind of teasing, like, what would it matter if the earth was flat? Like, what would people think? And at this point, then Shaquille O'Neal came out and said it. Then like there were people like B.O.B. and Tila Tequila or whatever you call her. Like all these celebrities start coming out. So I'm like, okay, I'm at least gonna objectively look into this to see where they're coming or like with all this stuff.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
why is this catching on? Like, why is this a thing? So to keep a long story short, because this next part is a very long story, I basically just went on YouTube and started looking at channels. And to anyone watching and listening, like that doesn't know about this, you're gonna come across a lot of misinformation. So it's just part of the process where you might hold on to a theory. Exactly. So it's like it just takes time, and the Most High's wisdom when his wisdom is upon you will allow you to start to distinguish between what's true and what's fake, because there's a lot of it out there. And even our enemies and the ones lying to us put people known as controlled opposition amongst our ranks to make us think that they're into the truth like us. But indeed, what they're doing is they're actually counteracting it. They're acting as gatekeepers by giving us half truths and keeping us. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
This mic is messed up. That's horrible.
Yeah. So whose mic is messed up? Mine?
Fine.
Oh no, it's all good. I can hear you. You're good.
But I hear myself as a robot, like I'm under the water or something.
Oh, gotcha.
No, it's fine now.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good. Yeah. So just like the stages that occurred in where the first thing I kind of, when I was looking into like flat earth research, and there were a lot of videos up surprisingly, and they were making sense. Like they're saying things like the earth isn't moving or water can't curve. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, that does. Like people can't walk upside down like in Australia and all that. And the first domino to fall, so to speak, was the moon landing. I was like, okay, they definitely faked this. Like I even saw NASA talking about how they couldn't go back there and they destroyed the technology of the moon and this and that. I'm like, how would you? I'm like, there's just no way that would happen. Like, you know a lie when you hear one. If the greatest accomplishment in humankind up until that point was going to the moon, there's no way they would have deleted the information to be able to go there. Like that's just suspicious. So, and then looked into a bunch of other things and realized that was a lie. And one of the first videos I came upon was actually our mutual friend, allegedly Dave D. Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to D. Murphy.
Yeah,
Dave. Out here, like, really paving the way for a lot of us, and just being a general. So Dave was on the late night show with Malenko. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, but yeah, Dave was just bringing up relevant points about the flat Earth and this and that, and just a lot of things that made sense. So I looked into that a lot, and what happens is you don't like believe the Earth is flat, being the Earth is the way it is. Because another thing is they're like, oh, you're a flat Earther. It's like we're not flat Earthers. We're real Earthers. Like the Earth is flat. So if they call you a flat Earther, you're a real Earther. You know the true nature of the world you live in, and compared to everyone else. So I just think that's another thing that people shouldn't be stigmatized by, to think, oh, you're stupid or you're not wise because you're being called a flat earther. It's just a negative connotation that they make to keep you away from the truth. And what happens is when you hear this stuff, you don't believe it right off the bat. But once you start doing enough research and you see the truth, it's like you can no longer defend what you used to believe in. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, you just start believing the flat earth because somebody told you. It's like, no, you do so much research that like it debunks everything you used to know. Like for instance, one of the experiments that we were told in school that proved the curvature of the earth was that when a boat sails off into the distance, you stop seeing it because it goes over the curve of the earth. And then you realize that when you put on a pair of binoculars or a telescope, that the boat comes right back into focus because it didn't go over the curve. It just went out of the limit of your vision because your vision is unlimited. So you see that and you're like, wait, that was literally a science experiment when I was in high school. So how, like that was a lie. Like what I learned was a lie. And what Dave even brought this up was a really good point because it had me thinking. It's like when you start revisiting these questions when you're older, you realize that unsatisfactory answers were given to you when you're younger, but it was by people in positions of authority. So you never questioned it. Like one thing, and this actually happened really recently, like 4 years later, I had a flashback of the first time someone told me that the earth was spinning, and like I conscientiously like endorsed the thought as a child. I was in third grade. And my teacher was like, yeah, the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, but you can't feel it. And I remember asking, like, well, why wouldn't I feel it if the earth was spinning that fast? And
Right.
the analogy was, if you're in a car and the car turns, can you feel it turning? And I was like, no, I guess I can't. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of like that. And I was like, okay, I guess that's what it is. You know what I mean? Which makes no sense. But I'm like
Yeah.
8 years old. He's 30. He's standing in front of the class. Like, he's a teacher. You
Yeah.
can't question it. You can't question professors or astrophysicists because these are the intelligent people. And ironically enough, the people who are supposed to be the smartest people, the professors and this and that, not to paint with a broad brush or generalize, but what I realized was most of my professors in university were actually atheists. So the people that man or mankind or humanity revere like as intelligent are actually the most unwise people because they don't even know the creator is real, which is just insanity on all. The thing that gives them that backing to be able to do such a thing is having an alternative explanation as to how we're here and how we were created and what this world's about and this and that. So anyway, yeah, I got to the point where I was like, yep, Earth, if I had to lean to one side more than the other, I would definitely say that the Earth is not moving and is level, water is level, the Earth is level, and all that good stuff. Like there's so much out there now that time doesn't even need to be taken up in this video to present evidence about the flat Earth. Anybody who does objective research and sincerely looks into it and is guided by the Most High will eventually come upon the truth, because the Most High is the truth and the truth is the Most High. They're synonymous. So when you look for one, you're gonna find the other. You know, it just is what it is. All praise to the Most High. And yeah, so I started looking into other things. Like, I mean, one thing that occurred right off the bat is like I had this like heightened state of consciousness where I was like, the world, the universe just became a lot smaller. I was like, whoa, like there aren't like
Wow.
infinite galaxies and this and that, because I used to be pretty into space. Like I used to
Me
think of
too.
space,
Yeah.
yeah, because like comparatively speaking, Earth is like a grain of sand compared to what they lie to us is like this vast universe, like Milky Ways, and like galaxies, nebulas, and all this nonsense. But when you realize that's not real, it puts like the center focus on Earth. It makes you realize that nah, this is it. Like life here is precious. Resources shouldn't be ran down because we're not gonna hop in a spaceship and go to another Earth. Like that's never gonna happen. That will never happen. So that actually steered me towards becoming a vegan, a plant-based eater. I watched 2 videos, literally this heightened state of consciousness in 2 videos, one by allegedly Dave D. Murphy, known as the Human Body Workshop, and
Uh,
another one by Eric Dubay, known as Truth About Meat and Dairy, if I'm not mistaken. Just those 2 videos, like less than an hour and like 15 minutes of footage, and this new awareness of the flat Earth made me give up meat in less than like 2 months, I want to say, of discovering that the Earth is indeed flat.
um,
And it's phenomenal because from like November of 2017 till now, I've not of my own accord consumed any meat or
since
I
when?
guess since November 13th, 2017. Yeah, because it was actually my birthday at the time. And that's another thing. We shouldn't celebrate our birthdays, but I just kind of had this wager. Like I wanted a memorable date to like kick it off from. And I came upon this truth around the time of my birthday. So I was like, if I was going to give it a trial run, if I was going to give veganism a shot, let me just start, on November 13th, my birthday, and see how long I could keep it up for. And honestly, I thought, man, I'd last like a week and like I'll be back to it in no time. But I always admired people that were vegans and vegetarians. I thought this is something I'd love to do, but I just wouldn't be able to do it. Like maybe I'll do it when I'm like 40 or 50 or what, because I'm like,
Do you do the fake meat like soy plant based?
I do my best to avoid that. I don't really
Yeah.
rock with it because I realize that soy is actually unhealthy for us. And even within my plant-based diet, I'm very particular about some things that I eat. Like every now and again I'll consume them out of like lack of a better option at the time. But for instance, things like carrots, cauliflower, I don't really eat vegetables like that. I started subscribing to like the Dr. Sabian diet.
Mhm.
And I don't think he's all the way right, but I do think he's correct on a lot of things.
So what do you
And
think?
a lot of quinoa, a lot of wild rice, tomatoes, onions, avocados, cucumbers, peppers, hummus. Whew. My
Oh
body is
yeah.
made of like 90% hummus. Like that's my go-to.
Wow.
Hummus and sliced cucumbers, you can't go wrong. That's my go-to choice right there. And yeah, that's pretty much a lot of my diet. Like if I want something with like a meaty texture. Not that I need it or like I feel like I must meat or anything, but if you want that texture for people who do, I highly recommend mushrooms, like portobello mushrooms. Like you saute them up, like saw a
Yeah.
look on your face. You're not a mushroom person, are
No,
you?
I've tried that before. It's really good. Yeah.
I don't like them raw, but when they're sauteed and like they got like that chewy texture, like I don't mind them. So yeah, that's a lot of what I eat. But the Dr. Sebi food guide is he got a lot on there, right? For sure. He's like, no alcohol, no microwaves, no soy, no GMOs, all the fruits and vegetables listed. And it's like you start to combine information that you get from different places. Because, for instance, when I watched the Human Body Workshop with Dean Murphy, he talks about how the best foods for us to eat are fruits and vegetables because they're the most perishable ones. So he gave this analogy of how the shorter the lifespan of the food, the
Mhm.
longer lifespan. So essentially, if something can sit on the shelf and stay good for a long time, then it's probably bad for you because it has preservatives and chemicals and all those types of things. So when you combine that knowledge with foods that you should be eating, then it gives you like a really good like hybrid of the healthiest things for you that you at the same time enjoy eating. Because if you're eating things that you don't enjoy eating, that's not going to last very long. So you have to kind of find that balance in between. And even for the people who don't like outright stop eating meat, one thing I highly recommend to them is to eat fish, like salmon, fish that
Mhm.
obviously goes in line with what's in the Book of Remembrance, detailed in Leviticus. Anything from
The
the
scale.
sea that has scales and fins, you got it. You're good to go. So no, you cannot have crab or lobster or shrimp or any of that. But
Ew.
yeah, then you're good in that sense. Another thing that Sabi even brought up was that how cows are hybrid animals, and a lot of people don't know that. Like the cow
Really?
is not. Yeah, apparently, according to Dr. Sabi, they're not natural animals. They're actually
What?
a
Not
hybrid.
beef? Really?
Yeah, it's like cattle as we know it today is a combination of a buffalo and a yak. So those two cattle were. I apologize for the noise in the background. Like it sounds like a biker gang. So yeah, the buffalo and the yak were bred together to produce like cow that we know today. Yeah. So not only are we consuming the meat of a hybrid animal, which again is another abomination of Leviticus, we're actually consuming its milk as well, which is also wrong. And even chicken, like there's a stereotype about black people just love chicken. Chicken
Mhm.
is it's forbidden meat. Because one thing you'll see in
What? Don't
Leviticus,
say that. I'm about to turn the
yeah, I
camera off.
know. I, I know, and that's our people don't even want to
What?
hear that. And they don't know that and that's how they keep us in sin because they create these stereotypes that had you not even subscribed to that stereotype of being like a black person that loves chicken, when you hear it, you're like, yeah, I'm black and I do love chicken. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, what's wrong with loving chicken?
Hmm.
Like, it's great, it tastes delicious, or whatever.
Yeah.
I saw these Dave Chappelle skits where he used to talk about that. Where he's like, chicken is delicious. And he's like, purple
Yeah.
drink and all of that. But what it actually says in the book of Leviticus is any fowl that walks on all fours is an abomination unto Israelites. And you think about that, and it's like a fowl, like a bird that walks on all fours. Like no bird walks on all fours. Like all birds have two
What?
feet.
Like I was like,
But
what
yeah,
bird? Like what?
but the thing is, when it said walks on all fours, it wasn't referring to limbs, it was referring to toes. And
No.
chickens have like four toes when you look at that. And so do turkeys as well. Those are hybrid vultures. So these are all things that we shouldn't be consuming, but there are always excuses to eat them. Like if
Wait,
you're
don't.
breaking up whale, is it?
That. Yeah, that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't looked into that. I need to check that out because I do know when our people were in the wilderness, they were eating
Yeah,
whale, right? Yeah,
those flew in. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's a very interesting thing that you bring up there. I need to look at that. I haven't verified it because it's like I
Right.
never planned on continuing to eat meat anyway, so I was like, this isn't going to apply to me, and that's a really good like hack, so to speak. to get away from even getting caught up in the whole thing with forbidden meats. It's like if you don't eat meat at all, then you're good. But another thing is they create these genetically modified plants, which technically are hybrid plants. So that's also forbidden. But I mean, you can only do the best you can in the society we live in, because they could just plaster organic on top of something, and it's like you just kind of got to take them at their word, even though we know most times it
Yeah.
isn't. What can we do, right? Like short of growing our own food, which hopefully most high willing, the days of that come a lot sooner than later. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, the Most High knows the intention of our hearts, and He knows when we're genuinely trying to do right and be the best versions of ourselves. So you ought not to worry too much, other than just do the best you can of what you got. But literally, the way you eat, it's there's a spiritual, mental, physical connection. Like it's all intertwined. I firmly believe that. I believe it's like spiritual to mental to physical. And when you start to eat properly and you eat better, like you stay away from sugar, you drink your distilled water and all that, you start to think differently. Like you're functioning on a higher level. Like that's just something I feel it's difficult to explain for people who haven't done it. I would just encourage that they do that, because one thing I realized when I became plant-based was I was like, an uncountable number of like gazillions of animals have been slaughtered, so-called for the sustenance of people. And what you realize is we don't need to take the lives of anything around us to sustain ours. Like that should be like a no-brainer thought. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we kill other things around us to sustain our life when we don't need to? Just think about that for a second. Like things could live. Like if the whole world was plant-based and we weren't like killing animals for leather or meat or anything else, think about the kind of serenity that would be on our earth. We wouldn't be like ravaging forests and deforestation. The sight of blood or killing or murder, like of an animal, would be so unsightly and rare, much less that of a human being. It places a premium on life in general, and life just becomes precious. And it's not just because people are saying it, it's because now you've lived it and you know that reality. Like I've been plant-based for about 4 years now, over 1,000 days without meat. So it's like, and I'm perfectly healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like I train, all that. I'm actually healthier. So it's like when you
Mine's is
know
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years yourself.
Without meat, yeah.
Like look, you're glowing and everything. You got that glow, girl. And
Well,
when you know that definitively, it's like before you get into it, you're just hearing like alternative sources of information. Like somebody says it's good, somebody says it's not. So I'm like, I'm just gonna brush all that aside. I'm gonna do this for myself. And I'm that type of person where when I go into something, I'll be honest with myself. Like if it's something I can't sustain or something I feel isn't beneficial, I'll just stop doing it. If I realized that being plant-based wasn't suitable to my life or wasn't helping me out, I would have just gone back to eating meat. So I just encourage a lot of people to do that, because I feel like the world would indeed become a better place if we all went plant-based. But one thing that I've talked about with a few of our people is, well, in Leviticus, it does talk about sacrificing animals and this and that. And yeah, truthfully so, that is indeed the case. But just because we sacrifice animals doesn't mean that we need to eat them ourselves. If that's what the Most High requires of us, then by all means, we can go ahead and do that. But it doesn't mean we need to consume it. And if you actually go into Genesis and look at it, it actually said that the food that was given to Adam and Eve was every green tree bearing fruit shall be used as meat. So that was originally what food was. And then there are varying theories as to how meat became introduced into the human diet. Everything from after the flood, all the plants died because, there was a massive flood. So humans had to turn to eating meat. I've heard other brothers say, and sisters say in Egypt, our people had become so intertwined with the ways of the Egyptians during the captivity that we just started eating all sorts of things, all unclean meats and whatnot. So Moses brought some kind of middle ground in between, where there were clean meats that we're allowed to eat out of the unclean meats. But if you eat clean meats, you're good. You're not doing anything unrighteous, but it's definitely better not to eat meat at all. And that's the way I see things. I don't see things as definitively good or bad. I see it as a spectrum. You know what I'm saying? So there's like perfect. Like being perfect is like fasting, like for like 2 months and then breaking your fast with like fruit and then fasting again. That's like amazing, like far in the spectrum. And then bad, like is obviously like eating forbidden meats, like drinking alcohol and all that type of stuff. So like there's so many levels in between. And it's like you can just kind of find yourself in one of them and continue to grow and build and develop. And one thing, I actually tried to go fruitarian, like just raw fruit, vegetables, but I live in Canada and it's like negative 100 degrees here. Like literally, I don't know, have you seen the show Snowpiercer on
Yeah.
Netflix? Yeah, it's about like the world freezing over and all of that. I really believe that show was like based on Canada, man, because it gets crazy cold over here. Like people don't even realize it. It's like, but yeah, when I started eating fruits and vegetables, I think at the same time it was also like a bit of an excuse on my part to not follow through with it because it was really difficult. Was what I realized was on the first day, it was the middle of winter when I started doing this, and I was eating fruit and I just realized that like I was cold because one thing is food actually regulates our body temperature, but we don't think about that. So when you're in a tropical climate, it's a lot easier to just eat fruit because it's warm out all the time. But when you live like in a cold place, like you want like soup and like, like comfort food, so to speak. So yeah, my whole fruitarian journey didn't last very long. Like literally the first day and I was done because if it's something that you feel like you have to suffer to do, then it's probably not right for you to do at the time. And maybe not even not right in the physical sense because eating fruit is definitely healthy, but it's just if you're not mentally there yet and you're not ready to sustain yourself, then you're going to be suffering. So my whole thing is don't transgress the Most High's laws and live in a way that's sustainable and will make you happy. Another thing is the fruit over here, as I'm sure you already know in the States and a lot of European countries and Canada as well, it comes in unripe and then it ripens on the shelf. So like it lacks a lot of nutrition and it's everything from like genetically modified to like will go bad within a few days and laced with pesticides and this and that. So that was another thing that did encourage me to stay on that because I wasn't happy. But anyway, going back to the Most High and my story of the flat Earth and whatnot it was flat Earth, then it was like fixing my diet, and then it was realizing that okay, if this is indeed reality, I got to go into the holy books or the holy book that reinforces reality.
You read the Apocryphals?
Yeah, I do, and I do believe in the Apocrypha. I mean, I haven't seen anything. I haven't come across anything that I disagree with yet. Is the best way to say that because
what about
I don't want to
that? Oh, okay, yeah, second Ezra's.
Yeah.
I've heard
too. Yeah, no worries, it's all good. No, I ain't even tripping on that. You're right. Technically, that is because I was that brother allegedly Dave, man. I just gotta keep giving him props because he's the one who be like putting me on.
Right, he's so awesome.
Right. For real, all praise to the Most High for him and all the things he's doing. He talked about how Second Ezra is kind of like jumbled up, and there's like 70 verses in like the middle of a bunch of verses.
Especially when they start reference towards the idol, like trying to make it seem like he's there. So.
Oh, you've actually read it?
Yeah, I have.
That's what's up.
And I was like, wait a minute. They're trying to like connect it with the New Testament, trying to make it seem like even Ezra was prophesying about this idol.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it. I'm intrigued by it. That's like another one of our mutual friends, brother Lee. Like he's a little skeptical when it comes to the Malachi. I don't blame him, right, for things like that because it's like you don't know what they tampered with, but there is a lot of truth in a lot of those books. The one I can, for sure, exactly. That's what even in the Book of Remembrance itself, there are things that are tampered with, like people believing that the Most High just messed with Job for the sake of like winning a bet with Satan. There's another one with how like there was during the days of the judges, I think his name was Jehu, but don't quote me on that. He sacrificed his daughter to the Most High. He was just sacrifice the next thing to walk through the door, the next person that happens to be his own daughter. And we already know the Most High said that we shouldn't put our children through the fire, so they're not supposed to be offered up as a sacrifice. So it's like that's a bit of an inconsistency in and of itself. And it's like in as much as there were things that they could change the translations of and tamper with, there were some things that they just positively could not do. Like they could not insert the name of JC into the Book of Remembrance. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the Most High has given us enough breadcrumbs to be able to go through the scriptures. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. The truth is hidden. Absolutely.
Totally. Without tampering with it too much to the point where it perverts the meaning, and then it would be hard to argue against it. Because if it said in like the Book of Remembrance that JC is the Messiah and he'd be coming, it's like, well, it says it in there. You can't argue with that anymore. You know what I'm saying? But and as much as they could have changed, the meaning of like virgin, or said that Job, was afflicted by the Most High because Satan was trying to see if he would actually, ride with the Most High in difficult times and this and that. They could not insert the name JC in there. And I think that's a spiritual thing. That's the Most High Spirit upon whoever was behind putting the revised version of the Book of Remembrance together by saying, no, you cannot put Christian in here. No, you cannot put JC's name in here, because deceptions like that that's too much. That would take it overboard, because then that would validate a lot of the things in the New Testament, the book of lies. So those things could not be in there, because it had to show a separation between the Book of Remembrance and the New Testament.
Right.
So it got to the point where it's like, okay, I actually had the Quran at the time, So I think it's amazing, because the Most High knew I was searching, man. He knew, and I'd been searching all my life up until that point, like, trying to do great as best as I knew. Like, I used to eat pork, I used to drink alcohol, I used to do a lot of things I'm not proud of now, looking back at it. But I just didn't know any better, because I thought that was the way of the world. And I was like, yeah, these Muslims say don't eat pork, whatever. And even said in the Bible, don't eat pork. But I was like, but Christians like eat pork anyway, so it's probably cool. But it wasn't up until I came upon that realization of I remember that summer leading up until researching the flat earth. I bought the Quran and the Bible, because I was like, it's probably between Islam and Christianity as to what religion is the way. I actually kind of forgot about that. I don't tell people this part because I forget about it. I was actively searching for the way to our Creator. And then, interestingly enough, I stumbled upon the flat earth and whatnot, and then came to realize the truth. And then I started looking through the Quran and the Bible. I was like, does the Quran say anything about flat earth? Oh, no, it doesn't. But the Bible does. Whoa, it was just such a humbling moment, because it was like, he's real. I just bowed my head to the earth type of thing.
Yeah.
Father, I'm so sorry. Anytime I ever doubted or I did anything wrong or I wasn't in it, all the way. And it's like, the Most High allows us to see these things when it's our time to see these things. You can hear the message now. People could be listening to this now. If they're not ready for it, it's going to fly right over their heads, because it's just not your time to know the truth. And as much as I beat myself up for doing things in my past I'm not proud of, I also realized that they were done out of ignorance. And it just wasn't my time, because had my parents known any better, they would have raised me in a way that would have let me know who the Most High was from the jump. And that's one thing that our children will have the advantage of. They're going to know the Most High right off the bat. They're not going to follow the same mistakes that we made. And, so I just kind of scrapped the Quran altogether, because I was like, yeah, this is obviously not the way. Then I was just in the Bible, and I was like, okay, so because this book reinforces things that I can identify in my own reality, as far as it's saying the earth isn't moving and set on pillars, and so many Bible verses reinforcing what the earth is. It's that can't be a coincidence. That's the Most High telling us this is the earth I created. Because once you realize the earth, it's not just because people are what does it matter if the earth is flat? It's such an asinine question, a very thoughtless question to ask. Yeah. But for the people who don't think that is significant right off the bat, it's not about the shape of the earth. It's about the cosmology of the world we live in. It's because if the earth is indeed flat, we know it is, then there's no space. There's no Big Bang Theory. There's no evolution. There's no Darwinism. None of that happened. So basically what I'm getting at is the only reason that we can exist, that any of this could be real, is because it was created. You know what I'm saying? Because it's those two things that always go back and forth with each other are creation versus science, versus, science has an explanation for why we're here. The only reason why people are confident enough to be atheists is because they think there's an alternative version for creation, which is, again, Big Bang and dinosaurs and Star Wars and all that nonsense. No, that's never been the truth, and it will never be the truth, because it never existed. So once you know the earth is leveled, and you can cross-reference that with a book of scripture that's telling you the truth, then your Creator is sending you a message. He's letting you know. He's letting you be a witness onto his creation, and it's evident. And another thing about growing up in Christendom which because I was a Catholic when my parents split and I lived with my mom. She's like, boy, if you're gonna live under this roof, like you better be Catholic. I didn't really have much of a say in it. It's like when they're first off, Catholics don't even really teach from the Bible. Like they'll just pick a few verses here and there, and then they go off like Turin, and then it's like more like the
Christian.
priest, yeah, the Reverend Father or the priest, just making up his own sermon off of like specific fractions from the Bible as a whole, mostly in the New Testament too. So it's like, and the way they teach, it's not going from like Genesis to Exodus to Leviticus, like it's not going chronologically. It's just kind of bouncing all over the place. So you could go to church for like, I'm not kidding, 30 years, 50 years of your life, and you still don't even know what's in that book. People don't know, like when I point out,
Unless you
like
read
it
it
says,
yourself.
yeah, exactly. Like it says Israel is the son of the Most High. It says the earth is not moving. They're not reading it for themselves, so they don't know that. They're just going off of what the pastor is saying. They have this like false sense of pride and self-righteousness. Like, yeah, I go to church every Sunday. I know the Bible. No, you don't know it. You're just listening to somebody else give you their version of it. And because of that, and not only their version, it's their version that's like random and bouncing around the book. You forget what you learned 2 Sundays ago when you're learning what you're learning on this current Sunday, because you're not following the order of the story. So it's not even making sense to you because you're putting pieces, like puzzle pieces, in the wrong place. So up until you actually read the book, I'm reading it, I'm like, this is in here? Like what? Like the Bible is saying the giants were on the earth, and it's saying that the earth is leveled, and it's saying that Israel is the son of the Most High, and it's saying that the Leviathan, like it's
Yeah,
like the sea.
yeah.
It says
The
Leviathan.
sea creature. Uh-huh.
Yeah, people think that's a myth, but no, that's legit. That was actually.
And there's an earth one too. It's a sea one and there's an earth one, but I forget the name of it. I think one is male and one is female.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I come across that, I might have read it and like it just like flew over my head, but we'll definitely like touch base on that again. So
Yeah, we
clarify.
will.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow, like I just encourage everyone listening to this, please read that book for yourself, man. Because if you think you know what's in there, you don't know what's in there until you start reading it, believe me. And then, so once I got into the book, it was like, okay, I know I'm in the correct book now because I could, it's like you're playing detective, like you're just kind of like
But
finding clues and going across. Go ahead, sister.
right. Knowing who the Israelites are, I do believe that is a key to understanding the book, because when you're reading about all these, these characters, you can't really relate who these people are, because if you go back in history, you're like, well, no, it didn't happen to the people that's in the land right now. So who are these people? And knowing who they are, you can understand the story and, the prophecies as well.
I 100% agree with you. Unfortunately, when we say we're the Israelites, people think we're being anti-Semitic or racist,
right. Well,
or
yeah.
y'all think you're the chosen ones. You're prideful. You prideful Black people. So it's like I don't even start off. I mean, I tell them, I'm like, yeah, we are the Israelites. Like, believe it or not. But you're not gonna believe it. They're not gonna believe it because we're saying it. They're gonna believe it because when they read the book, they will see
Yeah,
it.
you take them
Yeah,
to Deuteronomy 28 and 15, be like,
totally.
who did this happen to? Like,
Exactly.
just look at history. They match up
Sister,
with it. Yes.
you're 100% right, sister. I've sent Deuteronomy 28 to enough white people here in Canada. They've read it
Yeah.
and they still. I don't know if they're willfully closing their eyes to it, if they're blind to it, or if they're just arrogant. Like I don't know what it is,
Right.
but it's like they
It's
just don't want to
prideful.
believe it.
Yeah,
They
it's
do. Yeah, it's
pride.
like all right, like So, and the thing is, other than just Deuteronomy 28 and talking about the curses and the blessings that will be on the Israelites, for a fact that the people in the Bible were dark-skinned people. Like if you just read the book
I
long
mean,
enough,
it's
you'll
just
know that.
obvious.
Obvious. It's so obvious. From
Moses,
leprosy
in
turning skin.
Egypt, the hand
Yeah,
in the bosom.
exactly. And it shows you how they pervert history to make Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, look like white people. So then it could kind of just tie into the whole idea. It's actually like really, it's something to say because when they brought JC in, they gave us this white idol to worship. So we were worshiping the God of our enemies, the people that afflicted us, told us that we were savages just running around the jungle, and they brought us the good news and this and that. It's an absolute lie. We always had the book of remembrance with us. We always have the Torah, the Tanakh, whatever they want to call it, the Old Testament. They brought a version of it with the New Testament to deceive our people and put a white idol in front of us. And some of our people now are still caught up in the deception because they think the whole Bible is true. But it's
Right.
Jason
They
wasn't
just
white, he was
turned
black.
him.
It's like, nah, it doesn't matter if he was Asian, black,
Same
white, whatever.
story.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same story, it's the same character. It doesn't change. It's still an idol. And they're
Right.
like, even some of our people are like, yeah, we don't worship they call them, yeah, you know what they call them. I don't want to say,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, they don't worship him. We just know the Son of God. It's like, no, he's not. The Son of the Most High is Exodus 4:22. You check it out right there. You know what he's talking. It's Israel. So if you go in John 3:16, he says, and the Most High gave his only begotten Son that whoever believed in him. It's like that's already a conflict. He cannot be the Most High's only begotten Son. The Most High said in multiple chapters that occurred thousands of years ago that his son is Israel, and Israel is actually his firstborn. So something's got to give there. So yeah, upon being in this book, knowing, okay, like, yeah, the Bible is indeed the truth, and reading through it and realizing that this is where I need to be, the last stone to uncover is JC indeed the Son of God. And before I continue, you bring up a really good point, because knowing who the true Hebrews are, it gives context to that story and more understanding. It's like anybody who actually has wisdom and pieces it together and knows the Middle East, knows where Africa is, and understands that even mainstream science admits that like the people of old like originated from that area, then you know that the Bible and the science, like it all goes in accordance, and that's indeed what was happening. But without like trying to seem as though we're putting our bias upon people who are just getting into the book, just read it for yourself. And if they read it for themselves and they actually have wisdom from the Most High, then they'll be able to discern who the true Israelites are without us even having to tell them. Yeah, so when I was in there, and I think Dave at the time released a video called Black Man, Who Are You? And up until today, there are very few videos that I've watched that gave me such a sense of pride to be quote unquote black. Like I came out there, my chest was puffed out, head up high, like, yeah, I'm an Israelite, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm just so proud of it, that like our history has been perverted and hidden because it just starts with slavery, slavery, slavery. If you're in America, you're hearing your history start with slavery. When you're in Africa, same thing, because I went to school in Nigeria there. Or same thing, our history just started with slavery. Nothing else mattered before we gained independence. And like Nigeria, which is like one of the largest countries population-wise and geographically in West Africa, known as the Kingdom of Judah, where most of the African Americans, people in the islands, like came from. We're taught like that not only did slavery originate our history up until date, but anything prior to 1960, when we gained our independence, wasn't really noteworthy, wasn't anything that we really needed to know about. And when you think about it, that major country in the Kingdom of Judah, which used to be known before as, again, West Africa, only gained its independence 61 years ago. So before then, they were still, and even after that, they've still been controlled by their oppressors. But what they do is when they give countries independence, it's the illusion that these countries are now running autonomously. But what they do is they leave behind their own people in power. So they kind of run the countries through proxies. So even though they might not have the majority of the population in there like they do in South Africa, they'll leave their people like in leadership and the heads of government. So it's like they're still manipulating them just in a more remote manner. And yeah, when I started coming upon these realizations, I was like, man, major historical events, inventions, cultural history, music, all of that, like it's us. It's always been us. And during the Renaissance, when they, destroyed a lot of the books and like painted over black paintings with white paint and just perverted history to make it seem as though a lot of the technological advancements and evolution of, I don't like using that word evolution, but I guess progress of the human race as we know it has been as a result of white people. It's just not true. People are watching this could think, oh, you're racist for saying that or this or that. It's like, just do your research. And again, if the Most High's wisdom is upon you, you'll know the truth. So yeah, I looked at that. I was like, I didn't just want to stop, even though I really wanted to drop JC because the whole thing just didn't make sense to me. I wanted to do it because it was the truth, not just because I was swayed by what others were saying. So started looking into it again, realized the whole deception behind what they did. They basically plagiarized the Old Testament to create the New Testament by making half truths and inserting all these lies. Because to make the best lies, you gotta put some truth in there to lure people in, so they believe the rest of it, right? And the biggest prophecy that made it clear to me that there was an alteration was the prophecy of Emmanuel. Because if you just read that, anybody who reads the Emmanuel knows what's happening there. Like, it's a son being born onto Isaiah to be a sign onto King Ahaz, to let him know that that kingdom would not be, the southern kingdom specifically, would not be besieged by northern Israel, Samaria, or Ephraim and Syria. They would not come together. So it's like when you see that, and then it says in the New Testament how, and the prophecy was fulfilled because the child was born of a virgin and this and that. It's like, this is such an obvious lie. Like, I see what they did there. So it's like, it's not just the elimination of evidence, it's actually the alteration of evidence. So it's one thing if evidence was just missing, and it's like, okay, I can't say for a fact whether JC is the son of the Most High or not, because I just can't find the evidence. It's like, nah, like, you can actually see where they falsified it to try to like shoehorn him to make him fit in here. And then once you see the lie, you're like, okay, you guys are obviously liars. Like, this is a lie. And you just know it. And then once that Emmanuel a prophecy was uncovered for me, and I understood what was going on there, and then everything just started falling apart. Like, I started seeing how all the other prophecies alluding to JC were lies. And yeah, then I realized it was only the Most High. It was only ever the Most High. It is only the Most High. It will only ever be the Most High. And that was, those are like the major things that led up to me knowing what I know now, amongst a bunch of other truths I came upon. But everything I mentioned up until this point, those were like the biggies, so to speak. Like, those were the major cornerstones that shaped my reality and still shape my reality up until date, as far as a lot of things that, you and I go back and forth about on, like, when we message each other, that I could bring it down, but it's like,
don't break it up there.
Exactly, for fear of, like, I don't even want to, it's not even like fear of it. It's more, they just ain't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if they don't know this much, like, they're not even ready for the rest of it. So I found that, yes, it's frustrating when you want to tell people the truth, but just so, to our brothers and sisters who are frustrated with their family members, their friends, because we all go through it, man, and come in slowly. Because if you start off with, and it's not like you're lying, like, you're telling them the truth anyway, but if you start off with the craziest truths right off the bat, you'll just lose them altogether. So just try to, like, slowly get them in there, because anybody who knows about, like, the flat earth and the people, and I'm saying, so I just give all praise to the Most High that I'd been in the truth for years leading up until this point, because it's like you can see it coming a mile away. I didn't have to wait. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have, like, the wool over my eyes all the way up until this point, like, trying to grasp for something and realize, oh, is it true? Is it not true? It's like, no, I know it's clearly a lie, because you already know what they lied about coming up, like, up until this point. You know what they're capable of, is what I'm getting at. And shout out to brother Lee, slapping you with the truth. Because his video on Emmanuel was huge. Like, that was one of the major resources that I had. Yeah, when you put it on your channel. Thank you so much for doing that too. Yeah, I
broke that down.
Yeah, straight up, he went in on it, man. He style, like, can't even be argued. So that was one of the videos I watched initially when I was making that distinction between who the idol JC is and who the Most High is. And they should not even be mentioned in the same breath. The Most High is one and only. If you're reading the book of remembrance from the beginning, and when Masha, his real name, liberated the Israelites from Egypt, he told them, "Hear now, O Israel, our Lord God, the Most High, is one, and there is none else." So at that point in the story, when you're following it, it's like in the year, just for the sake of an easy example, in the year 2010, you come out to say, there is only one God and there is no one else. All right, cool.
Right.
If somebody comes along in 2010 and they're like, JC is God, it's like, no, that can't be true, because in 2020, this person's coming out in 2020 to say JC is God. It's obviously not true, because somebody of a higher authority at the time said in 2010, 10 years before, that God is one and there is none else. And this was Masha again. This was Moses saying it at the time that the Most High, the Creator, the so-called God, so to speak, that liberated the people at the time from Egypt to bring them into the wilderness on the way to the promised land was only one being, and that he would never they would at that point when he said it, he sealed it.
Right.
Meaning, yeah, there's nothing could come after that. He's already told you what it is. It will not change. The Most High does not change. The Most High does not lie. So the Most High says that indeed, if Moses says the Most High is indeed one up until that point, it doesn't matter how many chapters into the future you read after that. An
Right.
idol Most High, because Moses is already giving y'all the 411. He's giving you the lowdown right off the bat. Like he's one and it wouldn't change. And like it's unfortunate because that is so evident. Like anybody that reads the Bible can go in there and read it for themselves, but somehow because they cleave onto this idol so strongly, they have these like games that they play with themselves. They're only playing themselves. They're not playing us because we know the truth. All praise to Yah, to the Most High. They they kind of like use these like ridiculous rationalizations to give light to what they believe to be the truth. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's true. They'll look you in the face and they're like, yeah, he's right. It is one God. It's 3 in 1. The
Yeah,
Father,
it was like, no.
that is not one God. You're like, yeah, no, he's the Father, but there is the Father. That's the Most High. But this is the Son, the Father, but you have to go through the Son to get to the Father. All sorts of nonsense, man. But anyway, that's it, sister. That's that's my whole story and everything that's coming to mind right now that I feel like I should say. Another thing was, during the time where I changed my diet and all that, I stayed away from pharmaceutical drugs. I literally have not taken an Advil or a tablet or anything, like nothing, Tylenol, no
What do you do
pharmaceutical.
for a headache?
All praise to the Most High. I literally have not gotten any major headaches since then. But if I get like a light headache because like I didn't sleep properly or I box, so every now and then I might take a good shot here and there.
Yeah.
I just drink water. I drink water and I rest and I sleep. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
More times than not, I wake up the next morning and I'm all right.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You just said you box. So what is your record?
I'm undefeated, actually. No, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All praise to
Wow.
the Most High.
I pray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved to Montreal because it's the hub of fighting in Canada, both for mixed martial arts and boxing. And I played basketball at a high level up until university, and I just got really passionate about athletics. And I was lifting, I was doing all sorts of things. Actually, just to give you a bit of a personal story, when I came upon this truth I told you about with regards to the Most High and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff, on the flat Earth and whatnot, I had a really good job. I had like an expensive apartment I was paying for at the time. Drove a really nice car. It seemed like I was set, like I won the lottery, like I could live out the rest of my days with the kind of life I had. But then when I came upon the truth as to, Most High's existence and that we were Israelites and whatnot, I realized that everything in this life is it's fleeting. Like it's here today, gone tomorrow. And I always kind of adopted that mentality because I realized that the Most High is eternal. He's here forever. So they say the average human lifespan is 78 years today. So 78 years compared to how long the Most High has been here for and will be here for after we're gone. It's the blink of an eye. It's a snap of the fingers. It's nothing in the grand scheme of time. It's like I keep telling people, like, when people are like, oh yeah, but I've sinned and I've done this and I've done that. It's like, man, you've only lived like 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, whatever. What is that to the Most High? It's like, boy, you just start acting up like yesterday. The ancient of days, it's so little. So it's like my point is it's important to prioritize truth in life because life goes by so quickly and it's like you have to get it right. And it's not like you're not being disciplined by living in righteousness and abiding by the Most High's laws, statutes, precepts, and commandments, because his judgments are truth and they're righteous. So even if you don't understand why they're right, the Most High is good. He's not evil. So if he's telling you to do something, automatically that means it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't know why it's good at the time, this is where you have faith in him and you trust in him. A very good example about that is in the law, it says we shouldn't wear clothing of mixed fabric.
Mhm.
I don't know why wearing clothing of mixed fabric is a negative thing. Like, I'm yet to hear,
It's this
you know,
energy.
I would imagine, without a doubt, that's definitely the case,
But
As far as like
in these
business,
lands, they mix the fabrics all the time. And we're just not aware unless we look at the tag or whatever. But yeah,
totally,
always mixing the fabrics.
totally, you're right. And that's the thing, like someone even said polyester is probably like mixed fabrics because it's polyester. But again, you only do the best you can, and the Most High knows your heart. Like if you make an honest mistake or error, thinking that you're doing the right thing, and the Most High knows that. And the Most High knows us better than we know ourselves. So it's just doing the best we can. But with something like pork, for instance, like if you eat pork, like you're much more likely to get cancer, increases toxicity in your body, this and that. So it's a very dirty animal.
High
Like
blood pressure. Yeah.
exactly, like it's so evident why that should not be eaten amongst all the other forbidden meats. But something like wearing clothes of mixed fabrics, you're totally right. It does affect our energy, maybe in ways that we can't describe in like an eloquent manner to say, okay, like it causes X, Y, and Z. But the Most High says, don't wear it. Like those mixed fabrics shall not be found upon you. So that's for a good reason. Don't have tattoos. That's for a reason. Don't cut your flesh. That's for a good reason. Don't shave your beard or go bald. That's for a good reason. Obey the Sabbath. That's for a good reason. People are like, yo, you tell me I can't go out on Saturday. Why can't I go on Saturday? I don't have a good reason for it. I mean, other than I have a great reason for you, which is the Most High says you shouldn't do it. But in terms of human understanding, I don't have a good reason for you other than the Sabbath is crucial because like the earth actually rests during the Sabbath, and so should we. And things like even Israelites had slaves back in the day, not slaves like we know them as far as the slavery that we went through under
Right.
oppressors, but things like the Sabbath being set in place mean that you can't work your slave or your employee or your worker 7 days a week because automatically they're going to have at least one day off. And it's like, if that wasn't put there in the law, then technically that would be something you could do. You could just make your employee work every day, which is inhumane. So they're like higher levels of understanding when it comes to why things are put in place that might not be readily evident to you yet. But as we stay in the truth, the Most High begins to reveal these things to us as time goes by.
Right.
And even sometimes, so today, like I said, like for people who are like, yeah, I can go out on Saturday, like I'm cool, nothing bad happened to me, or this or that. They gonna get theirs. We gonna get ours if we disobey the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments. As much as we might not be able to explain verbatim why it's a bad thing, it is a bad thing because Yah has wisdom that we can't comprehend. So we just have faith in him. When he says don't do something, just don't do it. Don't test him. That's why I keep telling our people, don't date strange women or have children with them or vice versa, whatever the case may be. It might not seem like a bad thing because it's like people are like, yeah, like, but let's not be racist and let's come together and this and that. Yeah, the message sounds positive, but it's not because the Most High said don't do it. It's like the future generations just need to keep improving upon what their parents did, what their ancestors did. Like if our ancestors followed the law 70%, it's up to us to follow it 100%. And if we fall short of that and we follow it 80, it's up until the next generation to follow it 90 and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So I feel as though it's like, I know like once my children are born, they're going to embody a lot of my characteristics. They're not going to have me. They're not going to disobey the Most High's law. They're going to know who the Most High is right off the bat. They ain't going to be celebrating birthdays. They ain't no Halloween, no Valentine's Day, no Tooth Fairy, none of that. You know what I'm saying? No space, no earth is spinning. So right off the bat, they're already put at like a head start compared to where we were because they don't have to be indoctrinated in the same lies that we were. So their truths are going to be so much more advanced than what ours were because their realizations are things that we would never even have known throughout our lifetimes because us for sorting through lies, but then we can just hand out the truth to them without even having to go through all the nonsense, And I think that's huge. So yeah, that's one big thing about following the law and just encouraging our people to go in it because it says that the law and the Most High that is the length of our days. Like fulfillment of life here on earth as we know it is as a result of walking in righteousness, and that can only be done by obeying the Most High's law, statutes, commandments, judgments, and precepts. That's all we have to do. Respect the Most High, fear the Most High, and obey His laws and statutes. Like
Yes.
what else? It's really not that difficult. But again, people are going to be rebellious, and it's already been prophesied in the scriptures that the majority of people in general, aren't going to make it. Only a remnant shall return.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
What
because
do
that's
you
already in there. But go ahead, sister.
So what do you think about what's going on in these times, like all that's going on right now? So do you
Mm,
think we're close to like the Most High gathering his people out of the,
most definitely. Most
yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Because this was something I heard from Brother Lee. He brought up a good point. He was like, the Most High wouldn't give us this understanding. He wouldn't allow us. Because how many people were talking like this back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s,
yeah,
2000?
barely none. But now
There
it's
you
like
go.
they're everywhere.
Exactly. So it's like this wisdom wouldn't have been put upon us now if it wasn't for a time that we were going to experience within our lifetime. So I firmly believe that. And I feel like now is like that in between period where it's like if you need if there was ever a time to get into the truth, it's now. It's now, or like kind of like be lost forever type deal. Like, and just to touch on fighting again because you brought it up. And one thing that's really interesting, and you'll see when you watch like the latest Zoom meeting that we had, and by we I mean a bunch of Israelite brothers and I.
Mhm.
Uh, for the people that might not know, Brother Lee was talking about how he's a martial arts instructor, which I found fascinating. Yeah, he said that's what he does. So I'm like, I'll come down to the States and like I want somebody like that to be my coach. So, like, if I ended up, continuing like my professional boxing career, which is what I was in the process of doing when the pandemic hit, when the pandemic hit. That's why I moved to Montreal to begin with, because it's the most renowned French city in Canada, and the best boxer in the world in my weight division actually trains here. So I've been to his gym. I've trained at his gym before, and I was just on that path of becoming basically the best fighter that ever lived. That was my goal, because not for glorification of myself and to be like, yeah, I'm all this and that, or for the money or the fame. It was more to put myself on a platform where people would be willing to listen to what I had to say, so that I could just deflect and give all glory to the Most High for getting there in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And then just outing these guys and revealing a lot of the stuff behind like secret societies like Freemasonry and the Illuminati or whatever the case may be, because people that have actually been in these societies have actually come out to expose them. Like there's so many videos that are out there for people who are just willing to do the research and look into it to realize what's really going on behind the movie industry, the government, the religion, music, sports, royal family, you name it. Like they're a bunch of, they can't even be called secret societies anymore, because these societies aren't secret. It's more, they're not secret societies. They're societies that have secrets, that we just don't know about. But day by day, the Most High Spirit upon us is allowing certain of our brothers and sisters in truth to contribute their own part, you know, of this grand puzzle that we're all facing together. And it's like we all have pieces that we're gradually inserting to make it make more sense for the rest of us. So yeah, I actually stopped working and I just started pursuing the truth. Like all these things I'm saying now that I'm kind of like trying to summarize was literally thousands of hours, like no exaggeration, thousands of hours locked in my apartment, reading the Bible, the entire Bible, watching videos, calling people all over the world, referencing things. I've always been passionate about athletics, so going to the gym was like my sanctuary. Like I go to the gym in the morning, like shower there, brush my teeth, do my business, do what I had to do. I was doing my laundry at like laundromats. Like it was really like that. But all I was hanging on to was the Most High and the truth and His Word. Um, being a personal trainer, which I was even before I came upon the truth about the Most High, flat Earth. I had a few clients that like really close, like family. Like I love these guys. Still train them till today. And I still worked as a trainer, so I had enough money to just kind of sustain myself in terms of food, buying gas for my car and whatnot. But I didn't have enough money to have a comfortable living situation. Like I could probably have like roomed with somebody or bunked with someone if I wanted to. But one thing that became evident to me was that we're affected by the energy we keep around us. So I didn't just want to live with any random person and have
Right.
them influence way. I wanted to live on my own. So I was like, until I make enough money to be able to live by myself, I ain't living with no one. I'd rather live in my car. And sure enough, I did. And at the time, I was in Toronto, and I'm actually going to be back in Toronto pretty soon because that's like home. Well, my favorite restaurant over there. Whenever you're in Toronto, sister, you gotta holler at me, man. I gotta bring you to this place. It's amazing. They don't even have vegan food fully. It's a Middle Eastern restaurant, but the vegan food is like out of this world. Like my favorite restaurant of
But
all
they
time.
got
Like,
some bomb hummus.
and I
Yeah.
can't. You don't even know the half of that. It's amazing.
Mm.
So I go to this restaurant, eat there on the near daily, and the owners, we always talked about training together and this and that. But you know how people are when they want to get in the gym or work out. They be lazy, like I ain't got no time and this and that, excuses, excuses, excuses. So, they I never got one of the owners to come train with me, but he told me he got into boxing recently, and he thought that I'd like it and it'd be fun and I should give it a shot. And interestingly enough, a few years before that, um, a major professional boxer and coach in Canada had seen me like walking around at a gym that I used to work at. He's like, "Man, you look like a really good athlete. I think you make a great boxer." But then all I cared about was basketball. So he'd be like, show up for training. He was training me for free at the time to become a boxer. And I just wasn't taking it seriously because I didn't care enough. And after like half a dozen lessons, he's like, "Oh, whatever. Like, just go ahead and do your thing." But
Mhm.
it kind of came full circle because when this owner of my favorite restaurant that I'm telling you about invited me to the gym to come box, initially I did want to go, but I didn't want to be like him where when I asked him to come to the gym so I could train him for like weight loss and building muscle,
Mhm.
and he would be like, "Oh, he didn't have time and this and that." I didn't want to be like him, so I wanted to take him up on his offer and be like, "There's always time to like try something new or go train for your health or whatnot." So I'm gonna show up to the boxing training session, and I went in there and it was awesome because like boxing is really like there's a saying that they have for boxing, which is boxing is simple, but it's not easy. And what's meant by that is it's very simplistic. Like it's like 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4, like jab cross. Like everything is very intuitive. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not very complicated. But so that's how it's simple. Like it's simplistic in nature. It's plain, but it's not easy because it takes a lot of dedication. It takes like repetition on repetition, like hard work and all that. And I'm a very obsessive person when it comes to like things that I want to attain, be it like knowledge or a position in a place or whatever the case may be. Like I'd always been that way. Like if I want, like I went to the University of Toronto, Canada's #1 ranked university. It goes back and forth with the one I just showed you outside called McGill. Like they go, it's like Harvard and Yale basically of Canada. So like I remember in high school, like wanting to get the grades to do that. So I was like, well, I didn't even say by the Most High's grace then because I didn't know the Most High like I do today. But
Mhm.
I used to attribute it to my own wisdom and knowledge, not knowing that the Most High was blessing me, even when I was still an idolater and I didn't even deserve His mercies and grace. And I thought, oh, this was all me, like just the power of my mind and this and that. And I guess I used to attribute it to JC because I did believe in the supreme being. But
Mhm.
yeah, I've always just been a determined person. Is what I'm getting at. And when I got into that class, like I remember, because when I took those first few lessons with that guy I told you about,
Mhm.
I kind of like built up myself to a certain level. But when I got to this class years later, it didn't feel the same. Like everything was really robotic, and it's like my like what you're supposed to do when like you're given the instructions as far as like the punches you're supposed to throw, but it's like your body isn't cooperating with your mind because boxing and fighting in general is like dancing. Like it takes a lot of coordination. So I just became fixated on it. I was like, I gotta get good at this. Like, the same way I'm like, I'm gonna go through the entire book of remembrance. I'm gonna make these videos like that. Same type of determination was what I put towards fighting at the time. And I'm not even a violent person by nature. I don't. like fighting. I don't enjoy beating people up. Like that gives me no satisfaction. But it's like when you fight, when you box, like when you're in there, it's kill or be killed. Like if you're not going for them, they're coming for you. So it's like we both, when we're in there, like we both realize what we signed up for. So you kind of just got to do your job. Because as my coach used to say, you got responsibilities like to your family to make sure that you're in good health, to yourself to make sure that all the hard work is paying off and you come out victorious, and to the Most High, because that's the Most High is my Father, He's my Creator, He's my everything. So I give glory to His name when I have a victory, because just like wars were fought in the past by our ancestors, when Israel would conquer, when David and the Israelites would conquer nations, they would give glory to the Most High and say, indeed, your so-called God must be the true God, because only He can give you the kind of power to come out and be victorious. For David to conquer Goliath, the Most High had to be with him. So I always, I started to adopt that kind of mentality. And in a very short amount of time of boxing training, all praise to the Most High, I got really good. I got pretty good. And I got into my first tournament in February of last year, which was right before the pandemic hit. I had 3 fights in a row, won all 3 of them. Something that you won't see on my channel is that right after the fights were done, I just got right on my knees and put my hands up, and I was praying like in the ring, giving all praise to the Most High, which
they didn't record that part. They should have recorded it.
It's actually, yeah, they didn't record that part exactly. They didn't record it up until then. They recorded it separately. So I could put it up there, I guess, but it would just be like 5-second clips of me like getting on my knees and praying to the sky. Which I mean,
wow.
It would seem like I was bragging, like trying to show that I got the victory, but it's not about that. It's about giving everything to the Most High. Even there was a fight. My second fight was my toughest one, and a lot of the people that came there to watch, like the guy looked a lot bigger than me, and I guess like people when I beat that guy, people were like, "Man, you lost me like $5," because they bet against me and whatnot. But as soon as the fight was done, I remember saying, I was just like, people were like, "Yeah, go Tariq," and I was like, "Not by my power, not by my power," and I just kept pointing up to the Most High. It's Him, it's Him.
Right.
He's my strength, He's my everything, and it just it set me on a path where I just wanted to be somebody who could make a difference for our people, because that's ultimately why we're here. It's to help others, to spread the Most High's word onto our brothers, not only our brothers and sisters, but the nations at large, to be like conduits for Him to be able to get out there. And I don't see any professional athlete putting the Most High out there. I don't see any actor or actress or person in government, like legitimately like a celebrity or a superstar, giving praise to the Most High and saying that we're the Israelites. Please correct me if you know anyone that you can.
No, they're usually talking about the idols.
There you go. So I literally wanted to be the first person that like could be attributed as like a major pro athlete, like won a title in boxing, and they're like, this guy is saying something different. This guy is saying something.
It gets them interested in who are you praising,
Exactly. Because the thing is, inevitably, whether people want to accept it or not, they're influenced by the people that they see. When Muhammad Ali was the guy, like Muhammad Ali was like probably up on today is one of the most popular athletes, if not the most popular athlete of all time. When he converted to Islam, guess what? A lot of people started converting to Islam because that was their hero. That was the guy they looked up to. And they're like, if this guy can be this successful, and like Muhammad Ali, man, unfortunately, he was a sellout. Like, I'm sorry. Even I hate to want to admit that, but it's true. They look at someone that has success, they believe that success is coming from the Most High. They think it's coming from the Creator. So they just attribute it to, this is the way they're doing the math in their head. I want to be like Muhammad Ali. He's my hero. And Muhammad Ali is Muslim. So if Muhammad Ali is this successful, then the Muslim God must be the real God. So that means if I want to be that successful, I have to worship the Muslim God. You know what I'm saying? Like you see the way or for JC, people like most of the pro athletes who are successful, like give it to JC. Or even some of them even say praise God. But the thing is, we shouldn't get lost in the words, because there are people who worship Satan that say praise God, because to them, God is Satan. That is their God. So I had this plan of, and maybe the plan is even still in action. Who knows? I mean, I've been inactive for the past few months as far as like I've been inactive since February of last year in terms of fighting. but
Mhm.
I haven't really trained at fight intensity for the past few months because I've felt like my path has been shifting a little bit away from the pro athlete line to more just being able to put out the content on YouTube or whatever other social media or platforms I can use on the internet, as well as just being out there on the streets, like in person within my community. Because at the end of the day, to change the world, you got to start from home, right? You got to start from what's around you, and you gradually build out from there. But just having a cameraman on standby, setting up like some kind of booth or table with like verses from the Book of Remembrance, verses
Mhm.
from the Book of Lies, the New Testament, putting them side by side, being like, is this really God? And it's like one conversation about truth leads to another conversation about truth. It's kind of like when
Mhm.
you pull the thread, when you when you try to pull that thread on your shirt,
That
and when you
all
pull it,
unravels.
exactly, it just starts all unraveling. That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
So, I'm not really exactly sure what I'm going to start with or how I'm going to like break these people into it, but I know that when the time is right, the Most High is going to guide me and everything from. I think one thing that hits home the most is starting with this COVID hoax because things only hit home for people when it's relevant to what's going on in their lives right now. That's why a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? They hear about flat Earth and they're like, what does it matter? I still gotta show up to work tomorrow. I still gotta like pay my rent. Like, what does the shape of the earth matter? So it's like they're ignorant because they're not thinking about it in the grand scheme. But if it was something that was more relevant to their reality then and there, they're much more likely to listen. Like vaccines might kill you. It's like, whoa, if somebody was thinking about getting a vaccine, they're at least gonna want to hear why vaccines might kill you because they don't want to die. You know what I'm saying? So from there, it's like, okay, they listen to that, and then you tell them about, okay, wait, this is not the only life that they've had. Boom, they tell us that they're going to space, and boom, they tell us that this guy is the creator, whatever the case may be. So then it just takes on this holistic approach towards the truth that really just started with one bit of truth. So again, the thread unraveling the whole shirt or like the first domino that makes everything fall. And yeah, so I mean, I'm always going to train. I love athletics. Exercising and working out is a very healthy thing to do because when you not only by like eating healthy, like we alluded to, eating healthy is great for your physical the same way um, working out and exercising is as well. Because obviously you delay aging, so to speak, as we understand it. We
Yeah.
know that exercise and working out is healthy for your body for a variety of reasons, from like detoxing to increasing muscular strength, strengthening your heart, cardiovascular strength. When you strengthen your heart, you literally increase your lifespan. So it's like the way I see it is, and then obviously being in righteousness, walking in the Most High's word, His law, statutes, and commandments. That's great for your spiritual, which is also great for your mental. That's connected to all those things I just said about eating healthy and working out by your physical. It's all connected. It's when wisdom is upon you, you're doing the right thing in all facets of your life. You know what I'm saying? So when wisdom is upon you, you have the motivation to be able to exercise, to work out because you understand why that's good for you. All these people that we're reading about that in the Book of Remembrance that were great warriors and doing all these things. I'm pretty sure they weren't obese, like 500-pound, like
Right.
super aggressive looking. You know what I'm saying? Because they would have had the wisdom to be great warriors, and to be a great warrior, you have to be in shape. To be in shape, you got to work out, and exercise, and eat right. To be able to have the wisdom to do that, you got to know the Most High. Do you understand what I'm saying, sister? You see how it's all connected, and that's the way I see it. Like maybe in not as linear of a manner, but I just see all those things as being grouped together. So when I go back to Toronto, I'm going to find a boxing gym. I'm going to continue training, and if that's in the cards for me, and the Most High wants to see me become, uh, a world champion and a professional athlete, then by all means I'll continue down that. I mean, continue up that path, rather, I should say. But what I realize is that the industry is controlled by a lot of satanic devil worshippers. Like that's just straight up what it is. So they don't give you your shine or your opportunity more times than not, unless you kind of sell out to their side. And I
Right.
know there's an exception to that, but if Mosai, like, if I feel like Mosai is guiding me in one way to say, stay away from that and just focus on, sharing the word and the truth. Like I realize I'm not going to need that platform to say what I have to say. I used to think like that before, and that's why I got into fighting. Also because, everyone has to have a job, I guess. So if you gotta pay rent and you gotta put food on the table. So if there was anything I wanted to do, it was something that was in line with athletics and that was magnifying the Most High, as well as just putting me on a platform to be able to speak to His glory. So one of two things is going to happen. In the next 3 months, I'll get back into boxing. By the Most High's grace, I will indeed become a world champion. And I will, along the path of this, continue to magnify His word through a channel that I've told you I'm going to make. And once I've completed my studies to a point that I'm satisfied with, or I'm just going to ditch that altogether in terms of the boxing aspect and just go straight into magnifying His word like an everyday person. And if they listen, they listen. If they don't, they don't. But
Yeah.
like we alluded to earlier on, it's
It's
already been written that a certain amount
yeah.
of people are going to make it. So if the truth is meant for them, like that saying that I told you about, the truth is meant for everyone, but
Mhm.
not everyone's meant for the truth. So
Yeah,
some
it's not like they're rejecting you, they're actually rejecting the truth and the Most High.
100%, you're totally right. It's just a shame that we exist in a society where they literally refer to stars as like, oh, that's my idol and this or that. People are
Mhm.
much more likely to take on the ideologies of people that they revere or hold in high regard. So
Right.
if I was like if I was a LeBron James, you know what I'm saying? If LeBron James came out today and said the Most High of Israel is the one true
Mhm.
creator, how many black people in
So
America right
nice.
now, you know what I'm saying? If a Tiger Woods came out, if Serena Williams came
Yeah,
out, you know
people
what I'm
will be in the book, like,
saying?
you know?
100% they would be. 100. If Kobe Bryant, came out and said that. So it's if Michael Jordan. So all these people that they look up to are not elevating the Most High. So because the way people think is they're like, if that person is successful, they must be successful because the God they worship is the real God, because they'll never get to that point. So what you have to realize is that success is not determined by money or fame. Those things can come from Satan on earth. You know what I'm saying? So there are Muslims that are successful. LeBron James is not a Muslim. You feel me? So you can't like use material wealth or fame as a gauge to decide what religion is the right religion or what God is the real God. More times than not, what you realize in our society is that the people that they're putting on TV the most or saying they are the most famous or the richest or this or that actually behind the closet or in the closet rather I should say behind closed doors worship Satan. I'm not saying that that's the case for all of them, but for the majority of them, it's definitely the case. Like it's truth hidden in plain sight, but unfortunately, some people just don't have the wisdom or the understanding, or maybe they're just willfully ignorant, so they don't actually do their homework to connect the dots. So yeah, man, there's like it's overrated being famous or rich in this world, like as it's structured right now, because the people in power are corrupt and they're satanically influenced for the most part. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sister. Is there
And
anything?
I was just gonna say, I don't
Go
mean
for
to
it.
interrupt, but I gotta go and cook. So I do
Oh, no
wanna,
worries.
yeah, I do want to do the trivia question with you because
Yes, of
that's what
course.
I
I've seen
do.
this.
Yeah.
Hey
Yeah,
man, go
every
easy on
guest.
me. Ask me all the easy ones. Has anyone been successful with these trivia questions yet?
Well, it's only been Dave. You're the
Okay, I was
second
gonna say, I
one.
was like, you may
Yeah.
find the hardest questions. Okay, I'm
Okay,
kidding.
no, it's not gonna be actually hard.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
so name 5 plagues that the Most High sent to Egypt.
5 plagues.
5.
Okay, gotcha. He turned the waters into blood.
Mm-hmm.
He killed the children, frogs, flies, locusts.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding.
Hey,
I should
I'm
make you do all 10,
yeah, yeah. Hold up.
but you have a break. So it was nice talking with
Oh,
you.
you only give me one question? Yes.
Oh
I'm gonna leave a
yeah.
winner. I'm gonna leave. No, no, no. That's cool. I'm good. I'm good.
Well, yeah, that's all I have
Yeah,
right
no, that's cool. I'll take it. That's good. Hey,
next time.
sounds
It's gonna
good.
be
Yeah.
harder.
Okay, good. Ready. I'll
All
take it.
right.
Yeah, thanks a
So
lot, sister. I really appreciate it.
yeah.
At least the people hear me, and you're just doing amazing work, man. All praise to the Most High for you. I keep telling a lot of people that if you don't, like, I firmly believe that if you don't have a good heart and you weren't like trying to seek truth, it doesn't accidentally fall into your laps. You know what I'm saying? So clearly you're living right and you're doing something right. You're doing a lot of things right to know as much as you know now, and to like on top of that, create this platform for people to come on and share their experiences, to magnify the Most High and His law, statutes, and commandments.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yep, indeed.
Praise him.
Hallelujah,
Absolutely.
all the time. With that, I'm gonna let you get to it. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Tariq!